Guten Morgen allesammans och hjärtligt välkommen. My name is Daniel Torbjörnsson and I work as a head of skills and growth for the Swedish games industry. Quick personal background, I first joined the industry in the late 1990s as a QA tester. Worked on lots of games, mainly kids games. I went into publishing, I worked with licensing and as a head of publishing. I was laid off 4 times, 3 times from the same company and twice from the same position, which might be some kind of record. But I'm here today to talk a little bit about the state of the industry, particularly in Sweden. It's very loud up here. Can you possibly lower it a little? Thanks. Yesterday we launched our new annual Game Developer Index, where we tell how the Swedish games industry is doing. And we've been doing this for quite a few years. When we first published this report 20 years ago, the Swedish industry contained of 71 companies, annual revenue just a little below 60 million euros. There were 715 employees, and among those, 15% were women. Luckily, things have changed. So this is the report. There will be a link where you can download it afterwards. And I would also like to shamelessly promote another report we put out this year about, it's called Code, Climate and Creativity, about sustainability and green transition in the games industry. But onto the figures. In the past 10 years, we've had a steady growth of game companies in Sweden. And even though we've heard that 23 was such a bad year, we still had a quite big increase in number of companies in Sweden. And that sounds good. But of those companies, not all of them are like AAA mega studios. Actually, 40% of them are just single-person companies. And they don't necessarily make games. They could be holding companies, owning shares in game studios. They could be consultants, they could be freelancers, they could be doing games on the side and want to use tax reductions for buying their equipment. Another 39% of the companies had less than 5 employees. So even though we say 1,000 companies, not that huge, all of them. But roughly 270 companies has more than 5 employees right now. And how many employees do we have in the Swedish industry? Well, we have seen a steady growth there as well. And as I said, even though 23 was supposed to be a terrible year for the industry, we've seen an increase of almost 600, which is like 8% last year. And is that a crisis? The growth was actually larger between 22 and 23 than it was between 21 and 22. Among those employees, 2,150 were women, which is 23.7%, up from 23.4%. So slight increase, but not as we should have wanted. Sorry. So everything is fine. Everything is perfect in the Swedish industry. No. We have, of course, had quite a few studio closures, and we have seen layoffs in the studios. 37 companies in total closed their doors in 23. I can't tell how many of those were just single-person studios or consultant firms, but 37 companies. And so far in 2024, at least 8 studios with more than 10 employees have ceased to exist. And we got news this morning about another studio closing, so at least 9 now. Apart from these 8, 9, another 13 studios are reporting they have made staff reductions so far this year. And the total reductions during this year is approximately 350 out of the 9,000. So things maybe are not that good anyway. We might have a crisis coming up, or we'll see. 108 new companies started last year. We have seen 27 companies that have reported they have increased their staff numbers this year. And it was only 13 that have made reductions. We have seen 70 new applications for work permits from workforce from outside of the EU that has been granted by the Swedish migration authorities during this year, meaning that people are still coming to Sweden to work for the games industry. And if we add up the total number of new hires and deduct the number of layoffs, we are still up around 250 during 2024. So maybe everything is fine. Well, studios do still hire, and that's great. We like studios to hire more people, but they hire talent with previous experience. It's been really, really hard for new talent to get a foothold in the industry. The entry-level jobs have been harder to get, especially in the AAA studios. They have been much less eager to hire newly graduated students from the educations, for example. We have also seen it harder for students to find relevant internships. Either if you're a university student or if you're in the higher vocational education. In Sweden, you're supposed to do an internship at the end of your education, and that's been much harder. Studios say that they can't invest that much time and effort in new talent if they're not going to hire them. And we have also seen that during the peak years, a couple of years ago, the industry said, oh, we want much more people, we want more educations, more new talent. They said it all the time, so Swedish government increased the number of seats in the educations, which mean that when those educations started in 22, 23, when they graduate, they will have big trouble finding a job. And if you, how to say it, if it's hard to get a job after graduation, will the education still attract as much applications as they did before, when you know that you will almost certainly get hired? Well, we don't know yet. We see that the unemployment numbers, actual people registered with the Swedish Authority for Unemployment, registered as game developers, has gone up. But the numbers are still pretty low. I think in 2022, we had like 100 registered as unemployed game developers. This year, like last week, we had 440. And anyone working would say that a 4-time increase in unemployment numbers is really, really bad, even though 400 is still not that bad. Oh yeah, I just said that, sorry. If it's hard to find a job after graduation, will you still attract the same number of students? And if you can't fill your seats in the education, what will happen with educations in the long run? And how do we make sure that educations are relevant to the industry? Are the educations as fast in making changes in what they teach as the industry is to change what they do? We've seen that Private funded education. Oh, now I'm back. Privately funded educations are a bit quicker to adapt, while the university educations are a bit slower. It could take a couple of years for them to make a change in what they teach. So my advice would be for if you're new in the industry or if you're facing layoffs in your company, be prepared to start your own business. You don't need to get 20 million euros funding and build a 50 people studio and make AAA games. You could work in other ways. Code development is an excellent way to start working, doing work for other studios. We've seen lots of the big studios in Sweden started as co-dev or doing work for hire. Like DICE, which is now owned by EA, famous for Battlefield. When they were a young company, they made horse riding games for the company where I used to work. Also Massive, that in south of Sweden, owned by Ubisoft, they also made horse riding games for us. So it's no shame to do things that people want to pay you for. And I do think that education should prepare students for a life as entrepreneur, starting company, running a company, implement finance, law, etc. in game dev educations from the very beginning. And even though working or have an internship at a AAA studio might look excellent on your CV, you might actually learn much more if you work at a smaller studio. If you get a job as a junior artist at the AAA studio, you will be sitting there making bushes and trees all day for a year or two. If you work at a small studio, you will be making the complete landscapes, buildings, characters, etc. So you might be better off going the smaller way as your first job. And don't be too proud to eat. Even though you see yourself as a epic MMORPG designer, if someone tells you that, oh, I want to hire you as a mobile developer, you want to be a mobile developer because you want to eat. Well, I have 7 more seconds. Thank you so much for listening. We're going to have a panel and keep talking about this and other related areas. You can scan the QR code if you want to connect on LinkedIn. You can go to the swedishgamesindustry.com if you want to download the report. And you can find me around here if you just want to chat. Thank you so much for listening.
Now we good?
Yeah, now we good.
I felt it was quite awkward if you're going to sit here while I was talking, so.
Brilliant. That was really, really fascinating. Thank you, Daniel. And some excellent tips there at the end, particularly, I think, for people just trying to enter the games industry, which I think that there'll be a lot of those people here today. Yeah, I'd love to start with giving everyone an opportunity to introduce themselves. Perhaps, Carolina, you'd like to get started? Let us know a little bit about yourself.
Does it work? Oh, okay. So my name is Karolina Wędka. I am currently working as a senior UI artist at Crytek. I've been working for both small companies, medium and big in the past, and my experience in game dev is around 7 years. Thank you.
Great. Sophie, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. So my background is game development. I've been working 16 years in the industry, and layoff have been two sides of it. So I have also closed studios, but I've also, I've been part of, at some point, Let Go. So I will share some experience about that. And I did decide to start my own business, take a bit my destiny in my own hands, especially in those times of uncertainty. So I'm happy to share more about that today.
Brilliant. And Alexander?
Hello, everybody. I'm Alex. I'm an old industry bear. I've been in the industry for over 20 years, always or mainly in the games space. I've worked in big AAA companies. I've worked in smaller companies. Now I'm working for startup unicorns. So I hope I can provide you with some deeper insights on how to maneuver the scenery.
Brilliant. Is there anything you want to add, Daniel?
Not really, but and who are you?
So I'm Emily Scahill, Head of Client Success for Skill Search. We're a games industry specialist talent partner. We've been going about 30 years, and we're here helping to run CV and portfolio reviews at the kind of careers ground and mentor ground. So if you'd like some advice on that, please feel free to come and find us. But yes, that's great. So I worked out there's about 68 years of collective experience on this panel in games. So I'm sure that we've got lots of interesting insights to share. And it was really interesting to hear the kind of good news that came from your presentation, Daniel. That is, I think you've kind of said before, there's so much bad news that kind of gets a lot of attention in the media because that, it garners more attention naturally. It's easy to get bogged down in kind of the downside of things. But what do you think has made the Swedish games industry so resilient when compared with perhaps others?
Well, we had a thing yesterday when we presented the report in Stockholm, and a former studio manager said to me that if a car manufacturer closes down, there will be no car manufacturer in this town. But if a game developer closes down, there will be 10 more game studios, because people will not stop making games. They will start their own companies. So that's what we've seen in the layoffs in Sweden, that people have either been absorbed by other studios needing to recruit, or they have started their own companies. And I think that kind of entrepreneurial spirit has been the key, that people hasn't been afraid, even though we face the same problems with venture capital as everyone else. It's really hard to get funding, especially for larger projects. But people have been very, very kind on, like, we want to start a small micro studio and see what we can do.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And Sophie, I know that you've had experience of starting your own studio and getting funding as well. What was that like? Have you got advice that you feel anyone considering doing that needs to know so they can go into it with their eyes open?
Yeah, actually, I'll share here 2 experiences, because I did start 2 studios. One got funding in some way, and the other did not. So it's like also a point of the first studio. It was under actually another company. So this is another way when you want to create something, you don't have to do it all by yourself. It was when I was at Voodoo, and in 2019 we were starting the new venture of casual games in a publisher company, Hyper Casual. So it was a way to have a safety net, in a way, to not have to worry about the fundraising while focusing on what I'm good at, which is building a team, vision, executing, launching a game, which we did. And at some point we did close the studio after 3 years, when we went in a direction that was not anymore aligned with the strategy. And those things happen, unfortunately. And sharing a bit about that experience, it was really a hard moment of acceptance. And this is like the crossroad where you know that either you're gonna converge to what the company wants you to do, or then you bet on yourself and you say, this is not what I want to do, and I'll take the risk to find my path. So that was a decision I made instead, and I freed the team to also find the path. And that's not the common wisdom, because people would say you just force, you just endure, but what's the point then? So. And today, those members of the team are working together in some different places, so it's all good. And for the second experience was this year, I tried, I will use the word tried, founding a new studio. based in Vietnam. And I met the co-founders along the way. I haven't worked with them. They were based in Vietnam, and we started like, let's go crazy, let's try to raise 5 million. It was also like, again, let's be bold, let's look for big numbers, because yeah, we're so good and we have a credential. I can tell you it doesn't work these days at all, or it shouldn't even work. So in the end, we didn't continue after 6 months, so it started and closed very quickly. And the main learning I can share here is alignment of co-founders. So this is something, as you consider building your own business, the partners you pick, you don't know how much you align or misalign until you do it, right? So being very open about that 6 month period. And I learned something for myself that I did not enjoy at all fundraising. And if it's gonna be 100% of my work before I can actually build a team, do things I like, work on a game, work with people working on a game, I don't want to do that. So today I work actually with people who work developing games, but I haven't fundraised myself, I didn't build my own studio, but I'm still doing what I love. So that's maybe the main takeaway from those experiences.
That's really helpful, thank you. And in your current role, you're coaching people who've perhaps been made redundant or are considering starting their own business. Are there sort of common themes that you're needing to coach people on?
Yeah, so maybe for the ones in transition, maybe some of you are, or some of you are asking yourself, will I be? I find the lowest point is really confidence. Because the people I have coached were in transition, some of them, in building their own business, and their confidence has been really broken by how they were let go. Because it's pretty brutal. It's like companies, some of them, they try to make the problem go away by sending money, compensation package, but emotionally you're not taken care of. So then it's my work is focusing a lot on, okay, let's look at all the skills you have, what you've achieved, the things that are really yours, remember what you've done, and with that, what can you create? What are the fears? So we examine also a lot of the fears. What are the limiting beliefs? Why you think you can't build your own business or be independent, whether you want to be a freelancer or be on the studio or start to fundraise. So we examine all of that, just those steps to get confidence and courage to at least start and try. And I would say even if you don't make it exactly as the goal you wanted, you learn, you start to do, you develop the skills, and you find the next thing that is actually what you should be doing or what you actually want to do. So it's going more on a journey of keeping actions rather than finding the thing, the graal, that will be the answer for all the problems. So it's really a journey that I'm coaching people with.
Fantastic. And perhaps Carolina can answer this as well. Are there things that studios can be doing, therefore, when they're about to lay people off or are laying people off, that would help people set themselves up for, you know, what they're trying to do next, that would build their confidence? Are there things that studios could do to do that? What would you have liked to have happened in your case, Carolina?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. So, what would you have helped you? Because I know you were made redundant and very quickly got a new job. Is there anything that would have helped you prepare for redundancy?
But do you mean by myself, or what other company could do when they're laying off?
I think what the company could do, yeah.
Well, I imagine laying off is a difficult part in general, and I would like to for other company that's laying off to basically be not very, I don't want to say nasty, but like, so they're honest why you're laid off. You get direct feedback of what was the reason, what you can improve. Sometimes, and you have a great manager, they can suggest other roles for you. So if I was in that situation, I would love to have someone in the company that I know that cared about me, even if maybe there was a reason that I was laid off. So whatever reason, like maybe I was not performing enough, maybe there was not enough money in a company to keep me as an employee. I would just love to have this person that just cared to me, like about me.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot that can be taken away there, because say that managers can do for free, or just to put them in touch with talent partners who can help as well, coach them through that process. So there's probably a lot that studios, and probably some do some of these things, but there's probably a lot more that perhaps could be done. But I'd love to think a bit about juniors, because I know, Daniel, in your presentation you said that there's been a spike in unemployment, or people having difficulties getting internships after university. Perhaps the whole panel might have some ideas about what we can do to kind of counteract this.
You mean how to encourage juniors, how to get a grip in the industry?
Yeah, so how can we support juniors get a job in the industry, particularly right now when there's so few opportunities and so much more senior talent they're competing with?
Yeah. So maybe we do a bit of group activation. Who in this group is an artist? Lift your hand. Okay, quite a lot. And who of this entire group would consider themselves juniors? Okay, we have some juniors here. Well, that's good. I think I want to drop some general advice that's especially important nowadays for juniors. So what I've noticed throughout my entire career, that most artists tend to be introverts. I myself, I'm an introvert. I'm just pretending to be extrovert during those events. And my dream scenario is to just be in my own remote lighthouse, painting all day, cuddling with my dog and drinking hot tea. That's it. But no, you have to venture out. You have to actually talk to other humans. And especially now, this is more important than ever. I think you did the right thing coming here and actually networking with other people. And also not doing this here, but also doing it online, doing it on Discord, doing it in any other platform where you can find other creators or artists working together. And the reason I'm saying this is when companies try to hire, the first thing they go for is like, oh, do you know someone? And of course, the most important thing is there's somebody that's already pre-approved, that passed some sort of internal test already. It makes it so much easier to get the first foot into your dream job. So I would say, although I'm pretty sure you hear this everywhere, networking takes time, it's an effort. People will remember faces. So this would be my base advice as a first step to getting some sort of grip into the industry.
It's excellent advice. And as someone whose job is to a lot of it is networking, it's also important to follow up. I think the follow-up is just as important as the first meeting, so make sure you get their contact details and bits like that. Sophie?
Yeah, I have something to add to Alex. Thanks for mentioning the networking. It's as also like through the year, I've also seen like nobody likes networking, right? I think there's also certain way of networking that we have the image like we put our best suit and then we go very formal and we exchange, I don't know, even card. I hope we don't exchange card anymore. But the thing about networking is really about connection. So maybe you can do the mental switch, but it's a bit about really connecting. What does that mean is like you can assume that the person you're connecting with doesn't like networking as well. So being simple, like, hey, hi, I'm here at an event to network, so yes, and I'm not a pro at networking. What are you doing? Being interested in each other. I think if you have like friends around, you know how to connect. This is a simple way to get started to pass the hurdle of, oh my God, I need to get out there and use all my mental energy to network, because it's a very personal interaction in the end, and that may land your next job, or the person that will get your next job and opportunity. And I found especially for when I was looking at the statistics of women in the industry, unfortunately, those ceilings are a lot because of the network opportunities. Like most of my jobs, I got it because I knew someone, and most of the time it was a man. So I really encourage to know really more people who are connected, because that's actually, we call it these days social wealth, like the net worth, the social net worth, and it's something that really ticked for me as well. So, and everyone can do that with their energy. So you don't have to be, at the bar to just connect with others. So that will be my tip.
Can I add some spiciness to this?
Please.
Yeah.
So I think networking and all of that is important, but they're also kind of like buzzwords. You hear this and see this everywhere. I think what's also really important is that you have to find the right feedback givers. And what I mean by that is sometimes it's very cozy in our own Delulu bubble, especially if you're in university or you have a group of artists and everybody's super nice to each other. And it's like, oh man, this is the best 3D model ever. This is the best environment painting, whatever. And of course, we love to have a great time. We love to enjoy each other, but that's not getting you anywhere. In my personal example, one of my greatest feedback givers was my uncle. My uncle is a baker, so he has nothing to do with digital media or games at all. But he would come up to me and be like, oh wow, this looks like shit. And this was a wake-up call, because I was surrounded by other cool artists that were just trying to be nice to me and were very codified in their feedback. Oh, I love the colors, which is like the worst clapback ever. But if I have somebody who can give me direct feedback, oh wow, maybe you changed the background, maybe you overthink the design, and this is your job, to finding those people, to give you this really hardcore, down-to-the-ground reality check on your work, be it 3D, 2D, whatever. You need to find those people, and you need to get rid of your artist ego to improve.
I think that's really important advice. And obviously, perhaps getting that feedback, or I guess feedback isn't so much rejection, but going through a job interview process and things like that can end up in you having rejection after rejection, particularly in the current market. Is there any advice you would give so that people can sort of handle that well and be resilient and keep going?
Yeah, I can say something. So I think people have to realize, unfortunately, that the pressure is really high. Back in the days when I used to work at Epic, when we put out a job description for a concept art role, for example, 10 minutes after, I would have 180 applications, which is crazy because people will be out there, they're getting email notifications, and of course, they apply as soon as they see the job offering. So sometimes rejection happen because you have automated systems when something doesn't look right and you get an rejection right away. So also for me or other people reviewing applications, sometimes it's impossible reviewing everything and giving a thoughtful feedback why this doesn't work out. This is not an attack on your personality, it's just because there's so many people. And we had this topic when we had our preparation call, and I hate to say this, sometimes luck is also important, that you are on the right timing, that the person reviewing the files opens your files first. So this is part of the deal in this world.
Thank you.
So don't take it personally, in a nutshell.
Is there anything you wanted to add?
I agree with everything Alexander said. I would like to add that you don't know what is going on the other side. You don't know what exactly people are searching, because sometimes job offers are not that, how to say it, they're not saying exactly what people are searching for. So often when you apply for something, then for example, the recruiter is not exactly aligned with the director, and you basically find it out later if you have a interview or not.
Yeah. To add as well, statistically these days, because of there's maybe more people on the market and fewer open positions, there's even more competition. I think I saw a statistic the other day that maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago, you would apply for 10 jobs, you would have 1 out of 10. Now it's more 1 out of 100, because the application number is just crazy. So it's more being prepared, and in general, we talk here about resilience to rejection. If you go on your own path, or you are looking for a new job, it's gonna be a tough journey with a mental resilience, and it's more taking care of yourself. that as you receive the no, it doesn't, again, erode too much your confidence, and finding the resource for you internally to how to keep that belief in yourself, whether you're an artist and you get all those rejection, maybe finding that validation somewhere else, maybe you publish on somewhere, you have a community, if your job is defined in some other ways, finding the support to keep going. That's, I think, the main challenge I find. But again, it's a mix of luck, statistics, so you need to keep applying, basically, even if you get a no. It's the same with fundraising. I learned in the end, it's just, you need to have the stamina. It's not so much about you. It's a bit about you, but not so much about you.
Well, I can say we've seen we have an HR network in our industry in Sweden, and we meet quite a couple of times per year. And a lot of the HR managers say that they receive so many applications that are kind of generic. They send the same applications to all job openings, and all those where they can tell that this is not an application for our job, this is an application for a job, anyone, they will throw it out directly. So make sure to learn the company where you're applying for a job. Look, what do they do? You know what tools they use? Well, specify in your application, because as we know, there are there's not one job called game developer or game programmer or game artist, because there's so many different specialities. And I used to work in education, and we were always struggling with, should we try to make our students as diverse as possible or as specialized as possible? Some studios will say, oh, we want people who are super skilled in Unreal 5. Or others will say, no, but we use our own engine, so we just want them to do C++ and hardcore coding. So make sure that you know what the studio is actually looking for before you apply for a job.
Brilliant, yeah. And I think as well, a common misconception can be that if you use a talent partner, that there would be a fee for that, and it's actually free. It's the studios that pay agencies. So it's worth just knowing that and keeping that in mind, because I think similar to the feedback on artwork, it can be useful to have open and honest feedback about your CV and how that's looking, so that it can improve and you're not just throwing the same thing at the wall over and over. But yes, brilliant. And Carolina, you, I think, got a job really, really quickly after being laid off at Christmas, which is rubbish. How did you go about getting a new job so quickly?
So for me, it was a mix of the things that we said already. So it was a lot of luck that I had. It was the skill I have and the preparation. I spent a lot of time preparing my portfolio, and I think only 4 versions I created I was actually happy enough to show to the public. Then I made sure I have the Excel sheet with all the links of the company, the position, the location, and so on, so I can track everything I applied to. I applied to 56 job positions. I got 7 interviews out of it, and at the end I got 2 job offers that I choose one that I'm working right now. So as you can imagine, it took a lot of effort and a lot of rejection.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bucking the trend.
Yeah, compared to the 1 out of 100, you got 2 out of 56.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really good.
But it's a lot of hard work. I think that's the highlight, like customizing it, putting the intention. It's a lot of work, but there's no shortcut to that, or you just based on luck, unfortunately.
And going back to sort of artists in particular, over the years I've had sort of different advice on whether they should make their portfolio more specialized or generalized. Do you have a particular view or take on that, on how they should shape their portfolio?
So I will say this. There's no magic formula to portfolios. Of course, if you like stylized cartoony art, for example, then maybe it makes sense to apply to a place where you actually find this type of style, this type of games where you can go for it. It should make it easier. But I find that if you try to modify the way how you do things just because there's an external pressure, sometimes the artwork that comes out of that is very stiff and feels very unnatural and also like very replaceable. So on one side, I would say this, do the type of art that you really love, where you have a passion, where you follow other artists that have a similar style that are kind of like your inspiration. This will fuel your creativity and will help you to reach new levels with the quality of art that you can create. On the other side, what I will also say is that what I see amongst all artists, there's a strong preference for certain genres or certain games. Like 90% of the artists I talk to, they want to be some sort of artist for God of War or something like that, like very grim, brutal art, whatever, which is cool, but there's so many more cool things out there. And I encourage people to be like a sponge and have all the creative inputs, as many as possible, not just games, like music, film, literature, everything really that can enrich your own portfolio. And I think this is the best way to go. Do the things that you love, do the things that give you inspiration, and do the things that you actually are proud of and want to share with the world. Otherwise, it's going to feel like a homework that somebody else gave you, and people will sense that, they will see that.
If I can, I would like to add some stuff to it. So depending which type of company as an artist you want to apply to, for smaller companies, they usually search people that are more of generalists. You would be expected to have a lot of different skills, so it makes sense to prepare a portfolio that shows all of that amazing skills that you have. But if you would like to go for a bigger companies, AA, it makes sense to be very intentional with your portfolio. If you're a UI artist, there should be only UI art. There may be some smaller stuff, but it should be mostly UI art or UI design. If you're an environmental artist or want to be one, then you should be very strict with yourself to show this specific stuff. I'm not saying that you don't have to show other stuff, but you need to know the intention. If you're applying to the company that has a certain style, or they want to, I don't want to work on a game that has a certain style, it's good to have some example of this style in your portfolio, right?
Yeah, I agree. I guess another thing that I also wanted to add here is that if you have this passion, you can even get into the games industry without even wanting to be in the games industry. I remember we hired a wonderful artist, and she drew and painted the most amazing environments because she used to work for theme parks, and she created the actual rides and everything, but her paintings were so rich and so funny and so detailed that she became part of the environmental art team, and just because everybody could sense her passion for creating those worlds. But it's also very true what you say, especially if you apply for smaller companies. Smaller companies don't have the budget to have senior rigging artists, animals, whatever, like super specialized jobs. You're either a 2D or a 3D artist, that's it. And you get to do everything. And having like this foundation as a general knowledge, at least have tried to do something that you've never done before, is important if you're looking for a job in smaller indie or AA studios.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and important as well to be aware that there are things that are video games adjacent where you can pick up similar skills that will then sort of give you the basis to get into games. Like there's a lot of stuff in VR and XR tech and digital art and light exhibitions, and those technologies being used in a commercial space as well for training. I think it's good just to be aware that, you know, broaden your horizons a bit, particularly, you know, TV and film, probably also quite competitive, but I think it's just useful to consider that there might be other jobs alongside games where you can pick up similar skills and build out your portfolio and CV. Sophie, I know you've spoken before about sort of the myth of the entrepreneur. What's the myth and what's the reality?
Well, I mean, these days, if you open your LinkedIn, you see about the companies that have raised, or the companies that have been acquired, and that's one of the myths. Is you created your company and you become super rich. You have big numbers, billions, millions. Of course, all of those millions are not going directly to the founder, but it's creating really that myth that that's the result you get if you make it, and that many are making it. So statistically, when you see those numbers, I also you see in the press, is actually more of 5% of the really outliers, and of the rest we don't hear about them. So one thing I'd say, if you start your own business, and if, especially a game studio, because it's a different thing, it's a business that is not like a game studio specifically, and wanting to be rich, this is not the most effective way to be rich. So I put it there. Yes. And you might be very disappointed because at some point also, your studio, if you are on a trajectory to get a lot of money and scale, it's not your company anymore. So the other way, however, of an entrepreneurship, whether again you are going freelance, you are like solopreneur, we had those cases in the industry report, or you are a small studio, independent, or you are a funded studio, is really being clear with why you're doing this. And we talk a lot about the journey. It's not, it's actually there for a reason. A lot of the motivation of entrepreneurs is more about what is in the journey for you. What do you care about? Is it about the type of work you do? Is it about who you work with? Is it about the impact you want to create? And this is where actually you will enjoy much more the whole journey of it, because the result is very unlikely, that the result you want is very unlikely to happen, especially if it's money. So that's the first myth I want. And freedom, also autonomy. From the moment you are funded, there's been a big wave of studio VC backed, and we see also some of them, including in Berlin, have closed. But of course, they didn't announce it, they didn't talk about it. All the learnings, we didn't hear about it, unfortunately. You're not free actually. When you start to receive more and more money, you give away your ownership, equity. You're not free. So if you start a business with, I want to have independence, I want to own my time, think carefully about the model of what kind of business you build and how it's funded. There's always a trade-off when you accept external funding, especially for equity.
And I think on that theme of myth and misconception, are there similar misconceptions that people have coming out of uni, do you think, with students? Do they have a lot of misconceptions?
Yes, everybody wants to work on AAA and be a concept artist.
+1. So, and sometimes it even happens, but it's extremely rare. And of course, but those are the stories that stick with everybody. I think during your university time, or if you go to a school or somewhere where you learn more about games, yes, learning about to work in games is cool, but I think the main purpose for you to enjoy those years should be to build a network. Again, use those years to get connections to as many people as you can, to proactively engage in activities with external happenings like this one as much as you can, because once you're out of uni, you're not in this protective bubble anymore, and that the puppy protection is over. And then it gets a lot more harder, actually. And I'm saying this because sometimes when I see students, of course, we're so knee-deep into working in projects, into polishing this character, into creating the perfect rigging system, whatever. This is cool, and definitely people will have a look at it. But use the time to connect to people more than working on your own thing. And the reason I'm saying this, sometimes, yes, people will get those amazing jobs in AAA studios right away, but it's also mainly because they had the connections and that they worked hard in creating meaningful bonds between people. And doing it the smart way, connecting on a casual basis, so people remember you as a human and not as an annoyance. And I'm saying this because the other day I saw this amazing funny video. I think it was labeled applying how our boomer parents told us. And it's like somebody walking directly into the CEO's office. I'm like, oh, hello, I want to work here. I grew up in the same town as you. Oh, that's amazing. I'm going to give you a job right away. So that's not how it works. People will remember you, of course, but if you apply, even though people know you already, use the regular application system, click the button, fill out the CV, and people will remember, oh, it's actually Carolina, you know? So this is my big recommendation when building networks here. And I'm stressing this out so much because it helped me a lot when I was younger, struggling, not having money, looking for jobs. This was the one magic ingredient, if there was one.
If I can add to it, I had a talk before this panel with a friend of mine, and he's recruiting for, I think, programmer position, and weekly he's getting at least 5 messages on LinkedIn from people asking if he can get these people recommendation. But he never met these people in real life, they never network anywhere, so don't be that person. If you are interested in job and you like job offer and you want to write to either recruiter, art director, programming director, whoever, you can do that. Ask about the company, ask who they are searching for exactly, sure, but don't ask for like recommendation right away. I also have this situation, some networking event. I met a guy and I talked with him 2 minutes and he asked me already if I can recommend him. Obviously, I cannot because I don't know this person.
That's really important. I think it's so hard to go into any kind of job market right now without that knowledge and that understanding. And there's a lot. It's so easy to make mistakes, particularly when competition is so high. You know, I've heard stories of candidates reaching out to recruiters and managers on sort of personal platforms. It's sort of don't do that. Keep it to LinkedIn, keep it to their work email. Don't find them on Instagram or wherever. You don't want to be remembered for all the wrong reasons. Brilliant. And I think, you know, I want to sort of wrap up a little bit so we've got time for some audience questions. So perhaps to come full circle, Daniel, how confident are you feeling about the Swedish games industry for 2025? Do you have some more good news for us?
Well, if we can look into the crystal ball, I think we've seen it. I think we've seen the worst part. We have seen bigger interest in investing in Swedish companies. We had an Invest in Games event in Stockholm yesterday, which was fully booked, not only by people seeking funding, but with lots of people actually interested in providing funding. So I have good hopes, and we know that we have great talent. We just need somewhere for them to work. But if I may add something to what we just were discussing, I think education is a great thing. You can fulfill your life dreams and become a better person and learn great stuff and meet new friends, etc. Super good. But they don't always give you the tools for getting a job. And I think game educations quite often educate the wrong proportions of work categories. Lots of schools, they have one class of programmers, one of designers, one of artists. Well, the industry is not split 3 ways. We need way more programmers than we need narrative designers. And everyone in design wants to be a narrative designer. Hey, there are like 2 jobs in Stockholm right now for narrative designers. So try if you apply for a university education, try to find something that will actually lead to a job, and don't go to art school or theoretical philosophy or something that will make you smart and unemployed.
I went to art school.
Me too.
Sorry.
Brilliant. Are there any questions from the audience? The front row.
Sorry, it's not so much a question. May I contribute something?
Yes,
from
please.
my personal experience? Okay. maybe for the people sitting here, it's taken me 17 years to find a job I really like. I mean, I've been having proper jobs for about 17, 18 years now, and it's taken me just as long to find a job that I really like. So my first recommendation to everyone is be patient. You know, there are lucky ones who score their dream job right away. But for some, you know, the road is twisting and turning, so be patient and hang in there. Also, think about, I know we are all kind of here because we love games, and it's very important to us to turn a passion into a profession. But over time, I've found that as much as I love games, for my job satisfaction, other factors were more important. That doesn't apply to everyone, of course, but it's just food for thought. Other factors, the main factors for me for job satisfaction are actually a good boss who's fair and gives me a lot of room to make my own decisions, and also fair payment and all. But mainly it's about responsibilities and freedom to do the things I like. And my current job is giving me the opportunity to do what I like most and most intensively. So think about it, reflect whether it really has to be games. Whether you can find your job satisfaction, your dream job somewhere else too. So I actually left the gaming industry after I got laid off for the second time. The second company went bankrupt, actually. And over the course of my career, I've been laid off 4 times. The good news is it gets easier every time. But it's... So I left the industry and actually went into marketing for education and PR for education. Then I went to banks. Now in my case, that didn't make me happy, and I returned to the gaming industry. But along the way, I found a lot of jobs that had a lot of aspects that I really, really liked. And so, yeah, you might want to consider looking to other shores. I mean, basically, maybe that's one way of avoiding this crisis or part of this crisis, and maybe the next crisis. Just spend your time somewhere else and come back, just like I did. It worked for me. And again, sorry, last point. I know, sorry, I am hogging time, but my current job title is Senior PR Manager. In the 2 banks I worked for beforehand, I was VP of Corporate Affairs for Barclays. I was Head of Communications. So I got the lowest job title I've had in 10 years or so, and yet it has nothing to do with my job satisfaction. So don't always shoot for the greatest sounding job, you know? The most satisfying job may be different. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
And then we have one in the back row as well after.
Yeah, I raised my hand as well first. I'm sorry. It's also not so much of a question, I'm sorry, but I really liked what Sophie said about the reality of funding a business, because we started this talk with, if you can't find a job, don't be afraid to start your own business. I created my own indie studio 2.5 years ago, and the reality is that it's really rough, and the reality is also that building a game is not building a business. They're 2 very, very separate things. So I was glad that Sophie also raised that point, that it's a very different thing to do. And just to throw some stats, like 95% of studios on Steam, especially if you want to self-fund, you're probably going to want to release a game on Steam and not do like mobile games where you need a lot of funding for UA and so on. 95% of studios never release a second game. So what I hear, it's a great thing if you want to own to your skills after you study, I think. Not just look for jobs for 6 months, but actually build something after you've studied. But the reality is that the industry has become a bit of a winner takes all, and whenever you build a game, you're kind of buying this lottery ticket to try to get hit. But the reality of, a profitable business it's very, I feel, really hard to build right now in the industry, and mainly because also the investments have plummeted. Right? We talked at the beginning. We had a great chat by someone from Medienbot in Germany. Without this public influx, I think this industry is not going to really be able to help people build resilient businesses, which is the main thing. what's the point for someone getting out of school, building a company around a first game, that game to tank, and then being on the job market 2.5 years later or something? So I just wanted to share a bit of insight, because I think there's a real word of caution. And if you go to the other room there, you have a lot of students that are showcasing their game. And I think now they're all looking for funding, right? Because finding a job is really hard for them. And I think we really need public funding, again, in every country to try and sustain that. Canada does a great job. I know a lot of studios there that are actually building games around grants. Whether you want to do that or not, that's something, but at least this public policy allows for people to build resilience. Building your own business because you cannot find a job is going to add just more uncertainty and maybe not create resilience for you in the long run. So I just wanted to add this bit of personal experience. Thanks.
Thank you. Sweden doesn't have any public funding, no tax subsidies, nothing for the games industry, just to point out. You can do it anyway.
So my name is Ruth. I'm working as a coach and consultant. I'm based in Berlin also. I wanted to add a factor that was only mentioned briefly that I would like to stress. I'm doing a lot of job coaching too, and especially for people that are entering the industry. And I think you have to embrace the process, and you have to really do your research on the companies you would like to work for as well, because they realize at once, as you said, Daniel, whether you have done this research or not. And this process of research implies also to do some self-reflection, to be aware, what are my needs, where do I want to work, is it a big team or is it a small indie, and to do this thinking. You can only do if you really focus on the process and try to embrace that. What I encounter is that there are a lot of young talent willing to enter the industry, but they are sitting there. We have a German saying, wie das Kaninchen vor der Schlange, like the rabbit before the snail, and not doing anything, and feeling like not being able to do this first step. And I just would like to motivate you to do this. Think about it, do the research, learn about the industry, try to network, but also really think about yourself. What are my needs? Where am I the perfect match for a company? I think that is something you need to spend a lot of time in your job, and to do this research before, I think it's very helpful, and it increases your chances. Yeah. Thank you.
That sums up the panel quite good.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. Are we at time, or?
2-3 more minutes.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah. Have we got any more questions or statements? Yeah.
So, thank you. So you said quite early in your talk that nobody likes networking, that most of us consider it a chore, and yet we all have to go through with it. But the reality is, okay, some of us have it easier than others, and there is a certain group of people with disabilities or which have who are neurodivergent, and they have an even harder time to do all this networking, to get into contact with people, to follow up, to keep up the contact. So do you have any advice for these people?
It's a really good point. Everyone's got very different circumstances, right? And, you know, if you're raising children at the same time as trying to do these things, or perhaps you've got a disability, you've got less energy than some other people, it can be all too easy to burn out. So it's a really good point. I wonder if, just off the top of my head, whether there's a way of perhaps combining things you enjoy with the kind of business side of networking and things like that, because then it will feel more natural and you'll get more out of it anyway. So maybe sort of, if you just love making games, which is probably why you're getting into the industry, look for game jam competitions or start your own game jam and things like that. That might be one way of doing it.
I'd like to add to this. It is there is for sure some barriers of accessibility. If you think, I mean, I relate to networking events like a lot of dinners, evening times, especially more in leadership roles. Is where you wouldn't find women because they are not available on evenings or having responsibility at home. So one initiative I did in that direction was to do networking events not on evenings, in the morning, breakfast, where actually another category can join. So in the end, it's about maybe finding the pockets, the circles of communities that you can join. That would be a first thing. And then when it comes to online, there are ways to engage with people. I have connected with people so on LinkedIn. I know, of course, if you start with no visibility, it's a little harder. But when connect and what you find interesting about the person, what has, like trying to connect and having more targeted connection, because it's not about it's not a numbers game. It's not knowing like 1,000 people, but it's knowing the adequate people for you that are in your circle of interest or opportunities, and that can maybe introduce you to someone else that will get you closer to that opportunity. So it's like a chain, a bit of person, but you have to be clear about what's your intention. You want to be on something, you want to get in games, you want to know more, learn more about this and that. You start to talk to the first people that say, oh, I know someone, I should introduce you. That's really how it works, in person to person. So those are some other thoughts I have.
Yeah, and we know that the games industry and the game education are among the most open ones when it comes to neurodiversity. It's very hard. Many people who come into the industry, it's the first time they really feel at home because people are like themselves. And we've been working a lot in Sweden with raising awareness on this subject among managers, among HR people in the companies to learn more about neurodiversity and to embrace those difficulties and welcome those people into our companies. So it's a great point you have there, and we need to do a lot of job as an industry to lower the barriers for entry.
I would like to add something as well. Some people do not enjoy having a lot of people around you, and this is why networking could be hard, and also approaching strangers. I recommend maybe if networking face-to-face is difficult for you, maybe it's better to go to the Discord servers and meet people there and actually network online. You feel way more comfortable at your home when you can basically just be behind the computer. It doesn't have to be a video, you can just talk to people. You can go to Reddit and go join some Reddit groups that are like game dev themed, right? So this is a little bit easier if you are super stressed with like person-to-person interaction. What I want to say is the more you do this, it gets better. I am a very introverted person and I'm super stressed of stages, talking in public, meeting people. But because I started doing that, I like forced myself to be out there and talk to people and like take their LinkedIn profiles and so on. It got a little bit better, and I'm hoping it's going to get better for other people as well if they're starting.
Also adding to this, I think in general you can summarize this because a lot of people I've realized are struggling with real-time communication. To find places where you can have asynchronous communication. This can be platforms like Discord, Reddit, chat groups in general, but places that give you the opportunity to think and to build a response when your system is ready. And when you have the comfort of your home or when you just feel ready mentally, I think this is what many people could benefit from a lot. So finding the right channels, and if asynchronous communication, even Slack channels, there's lots of like discussions about art, this might be the way to go.
All really, really good points. And I think if you are going to try the in-person stuff, remember you can do it with a buddy as well. So there's probably someone else that needs to find a job that's just as nervous as you are. So why not go together? I think that's it. Thank you very much.